Well, hello there, and welcome back to the very latest episode of You've Got It, the Love Machine podcast. Now, did you know that low self-love impacts over 70% of women at some point in their lives? Issues like depression, eating disorders, bad relationships, and perfectionism often stem from lack of self-love. So I am thrilled to have on the show today relationship coach and self-love expert, Mara Palermo. Now, Mara is not your average coach. She's a true transformation catalyst who specializes in helping women break free from toxic patterns and rediscover self-love. With her guidance, women are empowered to stop just surviving and start thriving in their relationships, careers, and lives. Mara brings a wealth of experience and insight into cultivating healthy self-love and setting empowering relationship patterns. Through her coaching, she has guided countless women to reignite their self-worth, establish boundaries, and attract the love they truly desire. Today, Mara will be sharing the ultimate guide to self-love with me, and she'll reveal how to ditch destructive behaviors, tune into your needs and desires, and fall back in love with your authentic self. Mara's wisdom will help you transform your relationships with yourself and, in turn, transform your relationships and life. So I can't wait for you all to learn from Mara's expertise and insights. Let's get started. Mara, I am so thrilled to have you here today. Long introduction. How are you doing?
Oh my God, I love that. I'm doing great and I'm so excited to be here with you. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm really, really pleased to have you here. We spoke a little while ago and we got a bit excited about doing this. We're really thrilled to talk about self-love. Such a great topic and a common one on the podcast, of course. But I want to hear your insights because you've got different insights to other people and it's always good to hear what you have to say. And by speaking to you, I know this is going to be great. So first of all, can you just explain to everybody how you got into this and exactly what you teach people? That would be fantastic. Thank you.
Absolutely. So I originally, my career of choice was the beauty industry. So we're talking about, 20 years, maybe even more by now. So about I started very young, right out of high school, and so started to build a clientele, and then eventually I ended up opening my own salon and day spa. And so, as people know, when you go to see your hairstylist, you may or may not know, they start to become a person in your life that you tell everything to. It's like they're like your beauty therapist, right? So you see people day in and day out, they're coming to you for advice. They want to look good, they want to feel good. And 90% of the conversations we have are always around relationships. It was like whether they're getting out of one, they need to get out of one, they're getting married, I'm helping them with their weddings, etc. And so for me, I didn't realize it then, but it really gave me this platform and this position in their life to hold space for them, to allow all of these things to come out. Sometimes I was the only person maybe they could talk to, and really they felt like they were seen and heard, right? So as my years progressed, it being behind the chair, um it was something that started to see that some women would come to me, they wanted a miracle, and it was just something that, hey, it's like changing your hairstyle or doing this or doing that isn't necessarily going to change what it is that they were looking for, right? It was just like a little band-aid, and that would happen. They come in, it's like, oh, I just broke up with someone, and they're like, oh, change my hair. I want to, they wanted to just be this different person, and it would work for a while, but not long term. And so I started going through my own struggles and challenges with um my own self-worth, relationships, etc. Because one of the things is that when I was staring in front of a mirror day in and day out, right? Hours, all I'm doing is standing in front of a mirror. And yes, I'm looking at other women. However, I'm staring at myself. And there was just times where I didn't like what I saw in the mirror, but it was like I couldn't really avoid me. And so, so as much as I want to, but um I did focus a lot on trying to fix external things as well, and trying to get my needs met and fulfillment through material things, etc. And even through relationships, and realize that I always felt like there was something missing. And so once I started to uncover some of the things that were going on with me and just started on my own healing journey, if you will, really started to realize that the work is there, like to feel good from the inside. That's where it starts. And the external is just like the icing on the cake. So it was kind of like going through my own transformation, working. I was doing all the things, you name it. If it was books, courses, I was coaches, webinars, workshops, all the things. And it really, for me, it just seemed like it started to really, it was like, how much, do you love yourself, even at all? And once I started to really see that for what it was, it started to spill out into my other business. And really being able to help women at a different level as well. And so eventually that was when I knew that the next level for me, or where I was evolving to, was really supporting women to transform from the inside out.
Love that. Something you touched upon there that made me think was looking at yourself in a mirror, because I've had that issue sometimes in my life. Years ago, I used to go to a certain hairdresser and have my hair cut, and I used to hate it, staring at myself, looking at having my hair cut. And eventually I chose my hairdressers based on how the lighting was in a particular place. I don't know why. It's ridiculous, isn't it? Absolutely ridiculous. But recently, I'm absolutely fine looking at myself in the mirror. But even going to the gym a couple of months ago, I was going every day, getting really fit. And I took a selfie of myself, topless, should we say, in the mirror. I thought I like what I see, and I took a picture of it. I've been away from the gym for a little bit for reasons that will come up in a future podcast, but I need to go back into that. But I realized that looking at yourself in the mirror, it's a very, very hard thing for people to do that have self-love issues or things like that. And while I'm quite a confident guy, I can imagine for some people, even getting up in the morning, having to have a shave, or for women having to do your makeup, it's a really, really hard thing.
Yes. Yeah, it is. And I think that's one of the things, what we're looking at sometimes, when you're looking like a pond or water, and you can see like that reflection, reflecting back at you. And some of the times it's like, we might see external things like, oh, I wish I just this, or I wish I just did that. And you want to change all these things about you. But really, internally, it's just because you're lacking, you're not really seeing yourself for all of the good that you really are. And we think that, yes, when we meet people, they kind of see us face value. And so we feel like if we can fix that or make that look better, then, I'll be more attractive, or maybe they'll like me then. But then that just becomes like an endless trap. It's like you're just going to constantly going down that rabbit hole. So internally, as you start to really see yourself and your gifts and your values, it isn't when you're looking at yourself, you look at yourself in a different way. You can see yourself through like compassion. You can see your eyes through, see through to yourself with love. And it's not the easiest, especially if you're in that place where it's hard for you. Maybe you've had some things happen to you. Maybe you're carrying a lot of guilt or shame, or there's anxiety. So you're looking at yourself, and that's what you're seeing. You're seeing it through that lens.
You touched upon something there about having a haircut as well. And people say, well, what can I do for self-love and self-worth? I'll go and get a haircut. I'll go to a spa, like you mentioned, go and have a nice meal, look after myself. But they are the superficial things, and they don't fix the underlying problems, do they? So
No.
someone asked me the other day to give some tips about National Singles Day and what you can do if you're on your own, embracing being single. Of course, for one day, absolutely go to a spa, do nice things for yourself, and write yourself letters that how amazing you are, all these things. But how do you fix the underlying issues that are there deep down? Because they can go years back, these issues, can't they?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Generations and past lives and all the things, if you really want to dig into that. But it's like, some of the stuff that we're carrying just isn't even ours. It's like stuff that's just been, passed down as well. But it's like, what is it that is showing up now in the present? It's like, because we can't necessarily, I've done it all, where it's like I've try to go through the past and try to change things and all the, all that too. But it's like the past, really, it has happened, right? But obviously there's still some of the things that are showing up now. So what we can do is start to dive into what are these things, like what is that underlying issue? A lot of some of the issues is that, they don't feel worthy X, Y, and Z. They don't feel deserving of X, Y, and Z. They don't feel like they're enough. They don't feel that, or they have fears of like rejection and things, like things like that, that is usually like the core of what's really going on here. If we're really like checking under the hood, it's like that's what's going on. It's not necessarily that, I don't like my hair isn't good enough, or I'm not doing this isn't good enough. It's more so just like I personally take it on as an identity of that I'm not good enough. And so it's just creating that separation with is it that you're not good enough as a whole, or is it just that maybe I could have done a little bit more of my workout today, but the workout wasn't good enough, right? Instead of saying like you're not good enough, but we take everything so personally, and that is what actually brings us down, is because we're actually somewhat, I don't say like abusive to ourselves, but if we think about how we talk to ourselves or how we treat ourselves, sometimes we put a lot of pressure on ourselves, and we actually put ourselves down instead of, seeing that growth, that we are the progress, right? We want everything to be like perfect. So
I do that myself all the time. Absolutely.
okay.
I think we beat ourselves up, don't we, as individuals? And we look at the
Yeah.
stuff and we get quite sad. And what people say to us, as thick skinned as we might be, things can affect us and may damage us. And it's not easy. And I'm a really confident guy. I do that every day. I talk to people, new people. I love what I do. But if someone says a comment to me, that can haunt me for weeks, months, even years. And I'm fully admit this on the podcast. We are just human, aren't we, after all?
Yeah.
And it's a difficult thing. But how do you overcome that? Is it something that you shrug your shoulders and say, well, I just accept that? Or is there a way of dealing with it?
Well, there is I think there's a way of dealing it. And I think also too, like our mind is always seeking for getting like needs that it's like a needs meeting machine. It wants something, whether it's affection or love or connection. Um, it is designed to seek things out, but also it wants it in the fastest way possible. And
Mm-hmm.
so if it's not really given, say certain, I don't want to say like commands, but kind of, it's like it'll just indirectly go and find it, right? So, for example, if you are really in need of, say, some comfort, or you're needing certain things that you need to be giving to yourself, but you're not aware of that, your mind is like, I need comfort right now. So let me go grab this, ice cream or this whatever, and like you're just off going and doing that, right? And then all of a sudden you're just like, God, why did I just eat all that, right? But it's like you're not aware at the time that what you actually needed was X, Y, and Z, where it may be if you would have, I don't know, called a friend or went, you know what I mean, met up with somebody, that would be more intentional, becoming more conscious of what it is that you actually need, so you can give yourself those things on a regular basis, so that you're not necessarily in like depleted, right? And because then your mind's just going to go and find it the fastest way possible, and it's not usually the most effective way. And yeah, and that's how things are created. So once we're able to uncover what it is that we are needing, and this is one of the things that is a process that I do for myself and others, then I'm like, oh, this is why this is going on, or this is what I need to. So then I can actually give that to myself, or if I need it from someone else, I can ask for that.
But how do you
However,
know what you need?
well, I go through like I'll take them through a process. But if
Yeah.
you think about it, we all have 6 basic human needs, right? And
Mm-hmm.
Tony Robbins talks about this all the time. So he talks about like love and connection, safety and security, significance. There's, I forget the other, contribution. So if you think about it, there's 6 of them. And once we start to identify where you start to really spend the most of your time, your money, your resources, you'll start to see like what is really important to you. Like, so if I were to look into your bank account and you're just like self-development books and this and that, and you're going over here, and I'm like, okay, so this person really has a need for growth. So it's like once you start to identify those things and seeing like this is what is really driving you, because that's how we're driven. It's like we're driven because we want to achieve certain things, but we're trying to get things, right?
Yeah.
And so some people might love being in a social setting, love being around people because they love to be able to have a social connection. But maybe other people like to be more one-on-one because they want more of an emotional connection. They want more something that's a little bit more intimate. So until you start to understand that about yourselves, now you can kind of see like this is what I'm needing. This is what's really important. So how can I go and get those needs met? Instead of like indirectly just kind of being on autopilot, and I'm just kind of going through it, not having any awareness, and sometimes just choosing things that maybe were not the best for me. That's all. Um, so that's kind of like understanding that. An example is, if let's say you really love TV shows, right? So let's say it's like, hey, I want to build a business and I want to go and network, right? And you know that you need to network with people. However, you're not doing it. And so instead, what you do is, you binge on Netflix. And so one of the things that could potentially be drawing you to that is because maybe you're connecting with those characters. Maybe there's something about them that you're actually connecting to, right? However, you just might be really terrified and have that fear of rejection. So the fear of rejection is what's stopping you from actually getting your needs met, but indirectly, you're getting it met by watching this TV show.
Yeah, I see what you mean. So you're feeding on something else. Something else is
Yes,
giving you things that are missing in your life, but in different ways. Maybe not. It's
exactly.
like dating as well. Maybe you're
Yep,
not going to date the right sort of person. So you're going to go for somebody else who give you what you need, but isn't the
yep,
right person for you.
yeah. And then all of a sudden you're just like, oh, and then exactly. And then when you're dating somebody, it's kind of like, okay, they're fulfilling that need because you're also not fulfilling it on your own, because like obviously we have a relationship to ourselves. But then as they're now you're just like you want it more and more and more, but then you still kind of don't really necessarily feel that fulfilled in it. Because again, it's kind of like we're not giving that to ourselves because it does start with ourselves first, in my opinion.
Of course it does. We have to understand who we are and what we want and look
Yeah.
after ourselves first. And the word that I always use is kindness. We need to be
Mm,
kinder to ourselves and understanding that we're not perfect and we are still learning and evolving all the time. And I
yeah.
think deep down, we have all got some sort of inner voice within us that is telling us what to do and what we shouldn't do. So how much attention do you think we should pay to that voice? And is it telling us the right things?
That's a great question. I agree. Yes. I mean, I do feel like it's like internally it's like we do know, because I feel like there is that battle of like, well, what is it, my mind saying this, or is it like my intuition and just like knowing what I really need to do?
Hmm.
And again, it's like when if we're talking about like dating per se, like let's say for example, it's you're desiring, you really would love some validation. I would just love it if this person would just tell me how much they love me and care about me and all this stuff, right? We have this idea of what we would love. And have you ever gotten that though from someone and think that that's what you wanted, but then in reality it really hasn't changed much, like it doesn't really, right? So
Of
it's like,
course.
no,
Yeah.
of course. So so again, it's like we go back into well, unconsciously, it's like these are the things that we would like love to have in a perfect world. But again, it's, well, what's really going on is how are you, talking to yourself? How are you actually voicing, these thoughts and opinion to yourself? Do you even believe that to be true? And so that's kind of where like the battle is, right? Because it's like we want someone else to say it to us because we want the validation, but really what it is because essentially we might not believe it or for ourselves. So if I keep hearing it from other people, maybe I'll start to believe it for myself. And
Yeah.
again, it's like that will be short lived.
It's true because you're giving somebody else the power, aren't you? And I think
Mm-hmm.
we need to reclaim the power ourselves within us and listen to our own internal voice and what we have to say. Because if you give someone else the power, then you lose the control and you make bad choices. You're going to be unhappy. So you have to do it for yourself. But I think learning how to start to do that is a very tricky thing indeed.
Yes, it's a very tricky thing. And um one of the a great way to do that is to, it's like those baby steps, right? We when we want think of transformation, if we think of, well, I want to change my life, I want to, all these different things, it's kind of overwhelming, you know because it's kind of like, even if you're like, oh, I want to make $1 million, like that number to some might just be like so big that you're just like, whoa. Like maybe they're like, I just like to make $5,000 in a month, right? So it's like there's these big jumps. However, it's the same kind of thing as if you've always been talking to yourself and putting yourself down, what is it to someone, it might, it's like, well, where do I even start? And it's the same kind of thing. It could be a big goal, and it just could be something like, is like just simple as that, is like changing the way you talk to yourself. And it's like, okay, I could do that. But if you're so used to it, it's like, well, what do you do? And so maybe it's just, what do I value about myself? Like, what is the value? If I wanted to write down 10 things that I achieved in my life, or that I'm proud of myself, like, what is that I can write out? And again, some people are like, well, I have nothing to say, but it could be, I left a bad relationship. It could be, I stopped talking to this person that was, abusive towards me, or I asked for a raise, and maybe you got it, maybe you didn't. But the point was you were, asserting yourself in that way. Right. So there's so many things that we don't give ourselves credit for, because I also think it's always, again, back to the external thing. We got to have this success, or this relationship, and this car, and this, so we are like, well, if I don't have that, then I must not be successful. I must not be lovable. But it's if we keep ourselves in that mindset, then of course it's going to show up in every area of your life.
Yeah. What's interesting, I think we often want things and we don't really want them at all. You mentioned about $1 million. That's lovely. But I know that I'm capable. If I really put my heart and hands to it, in a year I can make $1 million. I know that. But on the other hand, I enjoy my quality of life that I've got, to see my family, to go for a walk with freedom and flexibility. I don't really chase that. What would I have to give up in order to have $1 million a year? And maybe I could do it for a year, but in that time, I would lose everything I've got. And I think we have expectations that are brought onto us by our parents and by people that we're hanging out with. So this is part, I think, of self-work as well, isn't it? What do you really want? Do you really need a partner who is absolutely perfect to show off like a robot? Or do you need someone that just cares and looks after you? That's what we need, isn't it?
Exactly. Well, and it's so true. And like, that's a great point. Just like, when think about, like, yes, what it is that I believe that we're chasing, if you will, is the feeling, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like, if you had $1 million, because if I said to you, here's 800,000, are you going to be like, no, thank you, it's not $1 million, right? So what is that going to give you? Okay, so it could give you this, you could do that. Okay, and then what else is it going to give you? But usually someone, what they're like at the end of all of it, or at the core, they're like, I really just want to feel proud of myself. That'll make me feel like I am accomplished. I'll feel whatever that is, that, insert the feeling, because that's what it is at the end of the day. So how can you experience that feeling now? How can you can feel, proud, accomplished, successful right now in this moment, if you choose to. And if we start to look for those things, and so then you can actually start to feel more, more aligned and more fulfilled, more accomplished and proud of yourself, because of things you've already done, instead of waiting till you have this $1 million, which may never come. And even if you do get the $1 million, who's to say you are going to feel that way? Right.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's where it's working on experiencing things like now, like, because this is really the moment that we have. It's so hard because we're always thinking about previous things, or we wanted something, or we're trying to go achieve things. But if we really truly wanted to have that type of fulfillment and that love, it starts right now.
It does. And what we do, the way we talk to ourselves, the way that we act every single day, is the foundation to that. And by being happy and having the self-love and self-confidence, other things will come to you. Amazing things will come along the way. So I think a self-care routine is a really important thing as part of every day as well. I think I've got a stat here I actually wrote down in advance here, because I don't really normally make notes, but I made this in advance. It says that daily self-care rituals reduce stress by up to 70%, according to psychology research. And it's the simple practices like meditation, journaling, or exercising boost self-love. So I'd like to ask you, what should someone do if they want to start putting a self-love or a self-worth routine together?
I mean, what you said was a great start. Some people, even if they're like, well, I don't know how to meditate, I don't know if that's right. It's like, of course, when we start something new, there's going to be resistance there a bit. Um, but maybe it's just like, hey, the next time you walk past a mirror, just like look at yourself for a second, even if it's a second, and smile at yourself. Like, it's like these little incremental steps that will start to build on top of it. If you want to start writing out affirmations, or just I like to call them, like, it's almost like a love list, right? It's just like, what is it that you love about yourself? And if you can write down 3 things that day, great. Just start somewhere. It's just acknowledging yourself, because for so long, I feel like we start to abandon ourselves, and not really check into who we are and see how we feel about ourselves. And so just by bringing some awareness to that, and just, again, what is it that you're proud of? What are some things that you love about yourself? Meditation is great. I love it. But if it's something that's like not your thing right away, do it for like a minute or two. Even just to sit with yourself and breathe a couple of breaths, just to acknowledge and to reconnect with yourself. That's a great way to start.
I agree. I always want to do these things, and I forget to drink the water. I forget to breathe. I forget to meditate. But what I've discovered recently, my brother actually showed me an app on my phone called Habit Tracker. And this podcast is not sponsored by Habit Tracker at the moment. If you hear this and want me to advertise you, I'm very interested in talking. And it's a free app. You can just track your habits. So every day you check in with yourself, and you can see a target that I drank X amount of water for 30 days. So I'm gonna work on this as of tomorrow and set this thing up. It's a great thing just to remind yourself, and it gives you alarms. I think if you track your progress that you're doing, and small changes, like you said, are so important with any sort of self-care routine. It's not a case that, to know what, tomorrow I'm going to eat healthy, I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to do my 10,000 steps, I'm going to do 10 emails to different people I'm interested in dating. Don't do that. One thing at a time, baby steps, as you said, and you slowly make the progress, and you have to do that. And even if you fall back a bit and things get in the way, because life will always get in the way. Trust me on that one. Things get stopped, but other things open up. But keep making progress. I think making progress and seeing things that are different and seeing achievements, they're a great way in keeping your journey going. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh my God, absolutely. It's so true. It's just, there's something for everybody, right? So it's like, as long as you're doing something, progressing in that direction, it does start to evolve. Like, you might love breath work, where I might love meditation, but if you don't try either one of them, you don't really know what you like. And sometimes one of the things too is, if you're really stuck on seeing the, great things about you, I'm sure you have like 1 to 5 people in your circle that you can say to them, like, hey, like, what are my strengths? Like, what is that you like about me? And having other people, because I did this, it was like, what were my strengths? What were some of the things that maybe are more of my weaknesses? And what is something that I keep repeating over and over again? And it was interesting to see the results, because I really was like open to it. But again, it's like, just trying certain things just to get started, you'll start to build on your own habits. And if you have a hard time, like you just said, keeping track of things, Habit Tracker is great. One of the things that I'm doing now is was tracking my time. I really wanted to see where I'm spending my time. So every 2 hours, I have an alarm set. So it's like, and if it goes off, let's say at 8 o'clock, and then every 2 hours. And so basically what it is just like being conscious of, like, what did I do in these 2 hours, just to start to build the awareness. Because I was always telling the story of, like, I just don't have time. I all this time. But then I'm like, well, I do, but like, where's it going?
I know that feeling all too well.
Yeah.
It is. I don't want to get to the stage where I'm setting alarms for everything in my life, because I think I enjoy the freedom, but I do think I need to focus on certain things, as everyone does. And particularly because what I do, of course, is dating and relationships. And people always tell me, well, I haven't got time to go on the dating apps. I haven't got time to do that. It's so time consuming. I said, how often are you going on there? They said, well, maybe about 10 minutes once a week. I said, that's not going to cut it. If you're going to apply for a job, you'd be on there every single day for a couple of hours, churning out till you get the interviews. If you've got the interviews lined up, then you can slow down. And then you see where things progress. But it's all like marketing and funnel marketing. You have to get the leads in there, all the opportunities in there before you can start thinking, do you know what, I'm too busy for this. What is a priority to you? If your priority is to go out there and meet someone and to do that, then get on with it. Make time. You'll always make time for things. Do you really need to go and see your friends every single night for a drink? Make an hour a week to do something. If your goal is to go and get fit and healthy, then make time for the gym. Or just start, as you said, small steps. Go around the block, keep walking around there every single day and build things up. I think routine is a good thing to have within reason, because it builds up the patterns and it keeps you in control of all this. But I think it is difficult. There's a lot of noise we have in our heads that are telling us, so you can't do that. Why not sit down, take it easy, and not bother doing that today? Maybe that is part of self-love. I don't know. Do you think sometimes we know that it's a good time to take a break?
Yes, I think it's just well, just for clarification, I don't live by the 2-hour time tracker. It's only to audit my time for like 2 weeks.
Okay, right. Yeah. Just to do a survey and see what happens. Yeah.
Just to do a survey. Okay. Yeah. I was like thinking about, I'm like, he's right. Like I couldn't live like that either. But it was more of like just to audit. But anyways, yeah, I agree that there are times where you'll start to do things for yourself. And because let's face it, if you say, I want to go to the gym and you're not committing to yourself and you keep basically breaking promises to yourself, that's going to start to create the defeat. That's when you start to, feel a little bit unworthy, or you start feeling down because you're not realizing that you're actually saying, hey, I'm going to do this, but then I'm not showing up. So imagine if you were in a relationship with someone who kept doing that. I mean, you probably would be like, okay, I don't know if I can continue on with this person, right? They're not really showing up for me. So it's like, if once you start to say, hey, you know what, today I'm going to put my sneakers on, as I'm going to get ready for the gym, like even if you don't go, but just like, I'm going to book the class or whatever it is. And you did that, then you're like, I did it. It's like those little things like, okay, I actually put it in my calendar. I know it sounds so small, but those are the things that will start to build the confidence in yourself that you're saying and doing what you told yourself that you're going to do.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I was doing this for some time over the summer. I was programming it. I blocked out my diary every 3 or 4 times a week. I'd go to the gym, do a Pilates class. I would make time for that. And if I didn't go, you're laughing at that. I did go. I intend to go again. But then things happened to me. Life got in the way. So something I've been doing a lot recently, as well as working, I've been watching a lot of Netflix because I've had no choice for reasons that I will get into in the future podcast. I had nothing. But then part of this is okay because it gave me a chance to spend time with my wife. I could chill out and take a break for once in my life without thinking I must check my emails every 2 seconds because I had no choice in the matter. And things were okay. I still managed to make money in the background. I'm so lucky and blessed to what I do. But I think really sometimes be forgiving of yourself and accept what happens. But now what I'm thinking personally is now I've had a bit of a break now. I've had some good things happen this week. I want to reboot myself. But this time round, bigger and better than before. And I said this to someone earlier. I think big is the wrong word I'm looking for here because I don't want to get bigger. And what I want to do is just improve things and up my game a little bit in all different levels of my life. And that is the ultimate definition to me of just self-love, isn't it? It is realizing that I'm amazing. I want to be amazing to everyone around me so I can help more clients, help my family, show more love to everybody. And that's an important part of all this. And I feel quite proud. I think it's time to reboot myself. One question for you, actually. I ask everyone this question as we come towards the end of the podcast. See how I subtly wound that in there? You say, right. What I want to do is ask you, do you have any sort of daily rituals yourself that you do?
Yes, I do. One of the things I've been doing recently that I'm loving is morning pages. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but it's this book called The Artist Way that really helps to it's just like a stream of like consciousness for 3 pages every morning. And what it does is just help to really, it helps with like the writer's block, creativity block, right? So I've been doing that. That's been helpful. And if I can't, do I beat myself up? No, it's like, well, what can I do? So I can do some meditation. I like to do some EFT tapping.
Yeah.
So it's like whatever, I'm flexible with it, but as long as there's something that's going to support like my mind, body, soul, I'm good with that. Working out obviously is another one too. But I'm flexible on like when I go, so it may not be this morning, but it's going to be at night. And so to your point is you're also giving yourself that self-love because like our body needs different things. we have these goals and we have these things that we would like to accomplish, but our body's like, hey, like you need to rest. Sometimes that's hard for me. And I tend to get migraines kind of frequent. So, and I'm always frustrated with it, but it's like, I really need to like rest. And there's some times where I'm like watching TV, same kind of thing. If I'm relaxing, I'm like, I can feel the guilt coming up because it's like, I should be doing all these different things.
Yeah.
And then realizing that no, like maybe I got this migraine so that my body's like, lay down for a second, you know? So it's just honoring those things and knowing that it's part of the process too. We're not robots, you know?
We're not. And I think these things happen to us when we need them. And the body's telling us, do you know what? This has happened because you need to take a step back. You need to do a reset. And by taking it easy a little bit for the last few weeks, I found I've got less back pain and I'm a bit more chilled out. And generally speaking, my wife could tell the difference when I started going back on the computer again, checking my emails all the time. And my mood was changing from being all chilled out and relaxed. Oh, you're stressed out again. Why are you snapping? Because now you've got 100 emails to deal with. But do you know what? It's just a balance. And that's what life is. And accepting that life is a balance. Work, life, family, all these things coming together. And it's a fantastic thing. And I think the last thing on this really is that self-love is a work in progress. You're always going to have ups and days and downs days. I think just embrace it and just be proud of who you are. And all the things you said there, write down the list of things that you have that people love about you. I do that all the time just to remind myself that I'm pretty damn awesome, even at times when I don't feel it myself. So, Mara, thank you so much. If someone wants to find out more about you, how do they do that?
They can find me on Instagram. You can either search my name or The Secure Heart. I'm usually on Instagram, on Facebook, Mara Palermo. And you can also check me out on my website, which is marapalermo.com. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much. I'll put those links in the show notes. And
Thank you so much.
I know we had a really good chat today. We'll do this again another time, hopefully. We'll do it on video. Because what people can't see is we're laughing a lot of the way through this. I'm having a good time. People can't really see that. So I hope it comes across in the audio. And I'll make sure we do this again and have a really good conversation. Thank you so much from me. From me. Have a wonderful day. And we'll speak again soon.
Thank you so much. I loved it.
Thank you so much for listening. I'd love to give you a free copy of my latest book, which you can download right now from my website, jamespreece.com. If you enjoyed this podcast, I'd really appreciate it if you could share the love by taking a few seconds to write a positive review on the iTunes store right now. See you next time.